my son Alex's wedding, I showed up with a carefully wrapped gift pressed against my chest. My hands felt stiff, like if I loosened my grip, I might drop it. It wasn't anything fancy, just a set of crystal glasses, but I had saved for months to buy them. I wanted Alex and his new wife Darcy to toast their new life with something from me, something that showed I was still part of this family. When I spotted Alex across the room, my heart swelled with pride. My boy, my only child, tall, neat blonde hair, those sharp blue eyes that looked nothing like mine but everything like his father's. For a moment, my nerves melted away, and I whispered to myself, "You did good, Mary, you raised him right." But then it happened. A sharp, angry voice cut through the room. "Why the hell is that black underscore here?" The room froze. Conversations stopped. Every head turned toward me. My heart slammed so hard I thought everyone could hear it. It was Darcy, my son's bride, in her white dress, her face twisted with disgust, finger pointing right at me like I didn't belong. "Who let her in?" she barked, louder this time. The box trembled in my hands. I couldn't breathe. For a second, I prayed I'd misheard her, that maybe she was yelling at someone else, but every pair of eyes was on me. "Darcy," my voice cracked as I whispered. I'm his mother." My words didn't soften her, they made her harder. "You're embarrassing us," she snapped. "This is my wedding. You don't belong here. Not today. Not ever." Gasps rippled through the crowd. I heard whispers slicing through the air. "She doesn't look like his mom." Another voice muttered, "She ruined the pictures." My skin burned hot, shame crawling over me like fire. I turned to Alex, my baby, the boy I raised after his father died, the boy I worked myself to the bone for, the boy I gave my whole life to. He was right there, just a few steps away. His eyes met mine, and he said nothing, not one word. "Say something," I begged, barely moving my lips, but I know he heard me. His head dropped. He didn't look at me again. The gift dug into my hands, my nails pressing through the wrapping paper. My body felt heavy, but inside I was hollow, like someone had scooped my heart out. Then Darcy's mother leaned in close to her daughter, but loud enough for me to hear. "We told you she'd ruin everything. She's not real family." Those words cut even deeper. I wanted to scream. I wanted to throw the gift across the room and shout, "I am his mother. None of you know what I sacrificed." But the words wouldn't come. My voice was gone. My dignity too. So I moved. Step by step, like I wasn't even in my own body. I placed the gift on a table. My hands shook as I let go. Chairs scraped. Someone coughed. But mostly there was silence. Everyone watched, waiting for me to fight or collapse. I did neither. Instead, I stood tall, though every part of me wanted to crumble, and whispered to myself, "I gave him everything, and this is how he thanks me." Darcy crossed her arms, smirking, satisfied I was leaving. I turned to Alex one last time, praying for a word, a step, anything. "Mom." Just one word, but he stood frozen, his eyes locked on the floor like a guilty child. That silence hurt worse than Darcy's screaming. His silence told me everything. I walked past the flowers I had helped pay for, past the decorations I had contributed to. Every step echoed in my mind. "You don't belong. You don't belong." At the doorway, I caught my reflection in a mirror. My dress was neat, my makeup perfect. I looked like a proud mother, but my eyes told the truth behind them, was a woman erased from her own son's life. I touched the mirror and whispered, "Do I even exist to him anymore?" Behind me, the music started again. The laughter rose back up. The celebration carried on, like I had never even been there. And I stepped out into the empty corridor. The heavy doors shut behind me with a dull thud, and it felt like the world had finished with me. I wanted to scream, but no sound came out. I wanted to cry, but the tears wouldn't fall. I stood frozen, numb, holding empty hands where the gift had been, thinking I couldn't hurt more than when I lost my husband. But this hurt deeper, because he hadn't chosen to leave, and now my own son was choosing to ignore me. My heart pounded so hard I had to press a hand to my chest to keep it steady. In that quiet hall, with laughter coming from the next room, I told myself, softly, "They've erased me." And for the first time, I felt small and invisible. I stayed there a long time before forcing my legs to move and walking back inside. The party was going on like nothing had happened. Music, jokes, clinking glasses, and I walked over to where I had left the gift, hoping maybe my son had changed his mind. Instead, I saw the photographer arranging family photos. "Groomside, please," he called. I stepped forward and said, "Excuse me, I'm his mother. Should I stand next to him?" The photographer looked at me, then at the bride's mother, who came over with a too big smile and said, "No, don't worry about it. Let's keep it clean." When I asked what she meant, she leaned in and said, loud enough for others to hear, that I would make the photos confusing and that the real family should handle things. My throat went dry at the words, real family. I looked at Alex and whispered, "Say something. Tell them who I am." He rubbed his neck and avoided my eyes. "Mom, maybe step aside for now. We'll get one later," he said. "Later." My voice broke. "I'm your mother. There is no later." Darcy crossed her arms and smirked, warning they'd have to redo everything if I insisted. Her words stung, but Alex's silence hurt worse. He didn't stand up for me or even look at me. I touched the necklace his father had given me. I had worn it hoping it would matter, but it felt heavy and useless. The camera kept clicking as they smiled together like I wasn't there. I slipped to the bathroom, locked the door, and pressed my palms to the sink. My face looked the same in the mirror, makeup in place, but my eyes were wet and red. "Do I even exist to him anymore?" I whispered, my voice trembling. "A guest knocked," I said. "Just a minute," wiped my face, and went back out. The music felt louder and my world felt quieter. I watched Alex laugh with Darcy's father, raising a glass, and I felt a sharp ache in my chest. He seemed happy without me. I called his name soft, then louder when he didn't hear me. When he finally turned, he said, "Mom, not now." I couldn't stop myself. I told him his wife had called me a horrible name in front of everyone, and he had done nothing, that they had pushed me out of our family photos. People turned to look. Darcy pulled him close and hissed that I was ruining the moment. He whispered, "Mom, please don't make a scene. We'll talk later." Hearing "don't make a scene" hurt like a knife. That was who I had become to him. An embarrassment he wanted hidden. I stepped closer and said quietly, "Do you see what they did? Do you understand what this means to me?" He wouldn't meet my eyes and said, "It's complicated." I felt my hands shake and said, "No, it's not complicated. I'm your mother. I raised you. I buried your father. I gave you what I had." His face went red and he told me to sit down. My chest felt like someone had taken the air out of the room. The son I had given everything to was asking me to be quiet and small. I turned away so the tears wouldn't fall in front of them, and walked out with each step feeling heavier than the last. From behind me I heard Darcy's mother whisper to someone, "We told you she'd ruin everything. She was never part of this family, and then, look at her. She doesn't even belong here." The words cut like knives, but instead of breaking me, they lit something inside. I pressed my hand to my chest to steady my breath and promised myself I wouldn't let them erase me. I stood by the wall, watching people avoid my eyes like I carried shame. My son laughed at a joke, pretending everything was fine, and I couldn't hold it in any longer. I walked straight up to him and asked, "Alex, are you really okay with what just happened?" He told me to keep my voice down and to not make a scene, as if being shoved out of his photos and called a racial slur was something I should ignore. He said we'd talk later and then walked off when Darcy waved him over. All the years flashed through me, frying late-night chicken to feed him, selling my wedding ring to pay his college, ironing his shirts for job interviews. I whispered, "I gave up everything for you," and he still left. Darcy stopped me at the door and said, cold as ice, "This is our day, not yours. If you loved him, you'd know when to step back." Her words made my blood boil. If they didn't see me as family, they didn't deserve what family gets. I walked out of the room and into my car and sat there with the steering wheel in my hands, replaying every laugh and every silence. When I finally went home, I didn't sleep. I went straight to the kitchen, pulled the old file box from under the sink, and spread the papers across the table. Receipts, contracts, statements, everything in my name. The down payment on their house, mine. The wedding deposit, mine. The car registration, mine. Every line of ink shouted the same truth. And for the first time that night I felt something steadier than hurt. A plan beginning to form. "They didn't build this life alone. They built it on my back," I whispered, and I felt that truth like a hot stone in my chest. I grabbed my phone, scrolled until I found the wedding coordinator's number, and for a second my finger hovered over the call button as a picture of Alex as a small, scared boy flashed through my mind. "Don't leave me, Mama," he had whispered on his first day of school. That boy was gone. The man at the altar stood beside people who spat on me, and he chose silence. I hit call. "This is Mary," I said, trying to keep calm, even though my hand shook. "The wedding contract is in my name. Cancel it, effective immediately. Charge the full balance, no refunds. Put it in writing." The coordinator hesitated, but I repeated myself, colder and firmer, and then I moved down the list. Caterer, florist, DJ, decorator, one phone call after another. Cancelled the order, I told them. Bill me directly. With every cancellation, I felt like I was taking a piece of myself back. When I finally set the phone down, the kitchen table was covered in receipts and contracts, my tea cold and untouched. I looked at those papers, the down payment, the venue deposit, the car registration. Every line said what I already knew. I had paid for more than they admitted. A small, hard smile tugged at my lips. It wasn't joy, it was resolve. Then my phone buzzed. Alex. My breath snagged. I let it ring once, then answered. What did you do? He asked, frantic. I waited so he could feel the weight of silence, then told him, calm and steady. Yes. I cancelled. I took back what I paid for. He cried that it was his wedding, that people were there, that everyone was watching. I said, soft but steady, you let them humiliate me. You let them erase me. Why should I keep paying for it? He begged me not to do this, whispering like he was scared of being overheard. But I hung up before he could reply. For the first time in hours, I felt a stillness that wasn't fear. I made coffee, sat by the window, and let the phone buzz. DJ, caterer, coordinator, knowing the hall was probably full of confusion and unpaid bills, music cutting out, staff packing up. Minutes later, the phone lit up again. I let it go to voicemail, then picked up the next call. Darcy. She screamed into the line, calling me names. I replied calmly. The contracts had my name and my money on them. Without me, they had nothing. She cursed and the call dropped. I sipped my coffee slowly, the taste oddly steadying, and for the first time in years I felt control. Then, a loud knock shook the front door. My stomach twisted. Through the glass I saw a tall, stiff figure, Darcy's father, standing on my porch. I whispered to myself, then unlocked the door and opened it slowly. Keeping my chin high, Darcy's father pushed past me into my living room, red-faced and furious, shouting that I'd embarrassed his family and ruined his daughter's life. And for a moment I just listened, calm but shaking inside. My phone buzzed in my pocket and it was Alex. His voice was cracked and desperate, begging me not to cancel everything, saying people were leaving and there was no food or music. I told him I had cancelled what was mine. I said the wedding wasn't built by him alone but on what I paid for. And if I wasn't good enough to stand beside him, then neither was my money. He begged and whispered and sounded like the scared boy I used to comfort. But when Darcy screamed in the background that I was dead to them, I felt something snap. I told him he had left me long before that night and that I was done being his silence. Then I hung up. Darcy's father strode at me, fists tight, accusing me of destroying Alex's life and demanding I put the contracts back and pay the vendors. He tried to bully me, saying I was bitter and couldn't stand to see them happy, but I stood my ground and told him the truth. You have no claim on what I paid for, on my name, on my sacrifices. He stared at me, eyes hard, and said, that's my daughter's husband. And the room held its breath. I didn't back down. I slammed a receipt down on the coffee table and told him, loud and sharp, that house, that wedding, that future, they didn't build it alone. I paid for it. The mortgage had my name on it, the deposits, the car, the bills, mine. I jabbed a finger at Darcy's father. You don't scare me. For a beat he looked shocked, then sneered, you'll die alone. Even your son doesn't want you. His words cut deep and for a second doubt crept in. But then I felt my husband's old voice in my head. Never let anyone take your dignity. I lifted my chin and said, calm now, that if my son chose silence, that was his burden, not mine. He stormed out, slamming the door and warning me I'd regret it. My phone buzzed. A message from Alex. You're not my mother anymore. The room tilted. I sank onto the couch and stared at the screen until it went dark. My son's words hurt worse than all their insults. I pulled down the photo albums, one by one, a gap-toothed birthday smile, his crooked graduation cap, the first paycheck he held so proud. I remembered baking cakes, ironing shirts, selling my ring for his rent. Tears came, hot and sudden, and then something changed. The crying felt like letting go. If he chooses them, then I have to choose me. I gathered the canceled checks and refunds and felt a small, strange calm. Money I thought was gone sat in front of me. I could do something for myself now. I whispered, I love you, Alex. But I can't lose myself to keep you happy. And for the first time in a long while, the emptiness in the house felt less heavy, more like space to breathe. Then there was a knock at the door. I froze, then walked to the door with my heart thudding, and found only an envelope on the mat, his handwriting on the front. My hands shook as I tore it open, afraid of what was inside. And for a moment I pressed the paper to my chest and whispered, Lord, give me strength. The letter began, Mom, and I read every line like it might break me. He said he was angry and embarrassed, that he'd frozen when Darcy insulted me because he was scared of losing her, and that maybe by staying silent he had lost me instead. Tears blurred the ink, but I let them fall. It was awful to learn he loved me but didn't have the courage to choose me. Still, there was a small, quiet peace. For the first time that night I felt seen by him, even if it was too late to stop the hurt. I sat down and wrote back in steady, simple words, I will always love you, but love without respect isn't enough. You let me be humiliated and your silence broke something in me. I told him I forgave him, but I couldn't keep standing in the shadows. My dignity mattered too. I signed it Mom, folded the letter, sealed it, and set it beside the open photo album where his gap-toothed birthday smile watched me. I touched that picture, whispered, I may have lost a son tonight, and felt the truth underneath. I had found myself. For the first time in a long while, I felt ready to live my own life. That's today's story. If it touched you, leave a like and subscribe. And don't forget, share your own life lesson in the comments below.